all the different doctors. Sometimes it is done by the residencies or the interns. So data input itself has a lot of problem by human errors. So it is practical issues to use those validation data for developing actual cases. So after anyway, they successfully extracting algorithm design, and now the company that here is a past Korean FDA regulation and looking for US FDA 510K clearance. Next. So here's the challenges. As I mentioned, the medical data input is done manually, and most of the medical data for use in the actual businesses is it also carries the timeline. It's more than 5 years and 10 years in order to design 10-year and 5-year prediction using the diagnostics. So input the patient record is a really hassle for this kind of businesses, and at the same time, the managing the data is also a big problem. Now we found out some of the genomic information tied to particular patient health information does not match at all. Means the information is mixed up. So which is critical, but that is actually happening not just in Korea but also everywhere in the world. And the genomic data also has different implication by ethnics, and so sometimes we have to do ethnic validation as well in order to get into the global market. And also different market has different regulatory the process in order to apply to the market. So before getting into the data and life science convergence technology, it is very important. I will raise the issue again in the later slide. Understanding regulations is really important. And who pays whom? Actually, in order to do that 10 years retrospective the study, you have to pay a lot of money to the hospitals and going through the complicated IRB processes. But the data came from the patient, and the patient, there's no way to the patient can get rewarded from the using that sample. Definitely they sign every single document to the hospitals by protocol, but it's not fair, and it is a real awkward situation for the business data situation. Okay. So next one is a more fun stuff that most of here that understand. So here is a medical needs for the diagnosis of the prostate cancer staging. We are using the method called Gleason grading system. It has been developed since 1960s. It is from the biopsy, the tissue, and the staining, and make it as a slide. And medical doctors examine that by the microscope, by eyes, and it is still used. So as you well aware, that general human error for the image recognition is 5%. So this is actual slide images. So there's a lot of errors came from microscope. After you have these actual slide images, and medical doctors will check the mark on the suspicious region, and all the suspicious region will be magnified and re-examined, and match with those scores, and the scores will be given to the serious needs of particular patients. So that scoring system is critical for decide treatment, but the way that extracting the score is a really for me, frankly, it's ridiculous. But there's deep learning technologies we can leverage on, and image processing technology is there. So there's many companies that actually try to solve this problem by machine learning to load all the images and diagnose this platform, and definitely the result is fascinating and start to getting into the market. Next slide. But the real world problem is there was one company in Korea that we are involving as well. They have a great idea, but in order to make the machine learning working, they have to load thousands of the medical images. But accessing the medical images is practically impossible by small companies like those with science, not biotechnology or medical background. So it's very important to understand how they can access the actual patient the samples and data to use as businesses. And the second, the regulation model. Luckily, there is digital pathologies and those deep learning technologies are start to get approved from Korean FDA and US FDA as well. But before that, there was no even guideline about new technologies. So if you're really early mover, have great idea, and invested a lot to develop those type of technologies, which is fascinating, but there's a very little way that you can make return out of that investment unless you have deep understanding about the regulations. And another problem of most of the AI-based diagnosis, there's any room for the market for the number 2 company? So what if there's company have the accuracy of 99.1 versus 99%? Everyone will go to definitely higher percentage of the accuracies. So it's a highly competitive area for achieving those goals. And another big problem is, and we will discuss again, are you willing to take your major health decision by AI doctors or less accurate human doctors? And where does liability comes to the AI doctors if they make errors? So all those issues is really critical and real world challenges right now. Next, please. So the insight is, for bring the data to the life science and healthcare technologies, it is very important to understand the ecosystem like regulations and payers, insurers who are looking for the both medical benefit and cost benefit, and hospitals. And some of the technologies are really competing current hospital model. So it's very important to, but the source of data is definitely has to came from the hospitals. So it's very important to communicate and try to include and evolve together with the hospital, which is extremely conservative organization. And medical doctors. It's at the end of the day, the current healthcare system, I don't know about the 10 years later, but most medical decision is done by the medical doctors, and liability issues is also given to the doctors. So how to interact with that ecosystem is very important to develop the data businesses in life sciences. And converging the technology is also the key. So we tend to be focused more on to how we analyze using the data. But the real world problem has to be solved from how you can extract the data, like liquid biopsy. So conventionally, the genomic data only can be take out from the actual tissue at the target region where disease came from, which has most of the genomic data for the target disease is located. But thanks to the recent technologies, we are start to get the genomic information. If it's even the cancers, for example, the cancers in a particular region, but you can take the blood from anywhere, then you can find a trace amount of the genomic information and amplify it, and using that data to the follow the health, not just only for the diagnosis, and the various of application can be made out of the data. So extracting data is also key topic, and for example the circulating tumor cell, so which is really trace amount of the cancer cell you can find in your body, can be developed by the knowledge of the biologics and nanofluidics and software engineering and mechanical engineering. So convergence and interacting with other areas is also the key to success to make the businesses. Next, please. And the impact, which is most important. So the data-driven healthcare can lead the healthcare industry is more into the precision medicine, which for the patient is most important, definitely. Not just only to be benefited out of the precision medicine, potentially the patient can be the owner of the data and can exercise their right to use their data to the precision medicine and data-driven medicine as well. And payers, insurance system is really looking at into their this data-driven industry because it's